So if potentially getting a 100x on your money in crypto in the next 2 to 6 months sounds at all appetizing to you, this man right here, Murad, believes that there is one very special token that will get this for you. He also believes that most other tokens that people are talking about will not even get close this cycle. He believes there's going to be no alt season like there was 4 years ago or 8 years ago. But if you know where to look, and if you understand what he broke down in this incredible video that he dropped just this morning, a 46-minute banger on how to find the next 100x in crypto, we can make more money than we would even dream about. In fact, he puts his money where his mouth is. This is his 11 addresses over here on Zapper, and you can see he's got 38 million US dollars worth of meme coins, the majority in the one token that he believes will give us that 100x potential, and potentially the only 100x of this cycle, the SPX 6900. Now, in his video, he broke down 17 factors that are the underlying pattern of every single 100x in crypto history and how SPX 6900 fits them perfectly. In fact, after watching his video, I'm already irresponsibly long SPX 6900, so much so that my family is starting to get concerned. I still wanted to go out there and buy more of it. I was even considering selling some Bitcoin to get more. Now, I haven't done that so far, but I wanted to bring you the 5 most important takeaways I had from that video that made me so insanely bullish on Murad's thesis so that you can make what could be one of the most important decisions of your life. Because if this is true, guys, and YouTube police, because I'm not promising anything. I'm just saying this is what Murad believes, and he has been right in the past. It sounds crazy now. That is why there is that exponential return to had, because if it didn't sound crazy, more people would already be in. But if his thesis pays off, you could potentially turn $5,000 into 340,000 US dollars. If his thesis pays off to 1/10 of it, you could turn it into 34,000. So I'll present the 5 biggest takeaways for you so you can decide if this is absolutely insane and you want nothing to do with it, or if it's absolutely insane and you want everything to do with it. Welcome to the community. Now, the first takeaway is it's not a matter of is there a token that's going to 100x this cycle? There absolutely is, and there has been tokens at 100x's through every single cycle, almost every single year. Here are some notable rapid parabolic moves that Murad has experienced. And of course, tokens like Bitcoin, which we take as a really established coin, a blue chip that now institutions are buying into, retail's buying into, and it's really well accepted as a investment asset. But once upon a time, it wasn't. And of course, Bitcoin went on to do 100x. Ethereum, once again, everyone's like, okay, that's a safer investment, at least in the world of crypto. Well, it's done 100x multiple times in its past. It wasn't like that to start. Chainlink was the same. Axie Infinity, no longer a respectable asset as it currently stands, but apparently the gaming run's coming back. Not the point of this video, but at one point did 100x return. So did Synthetics at the start of the DeFi protocol. Dogecoin at the hype of the meme coin cycle in 2021. Pepe did it in 2023 and 2024. BitTensor at the start of the AI cycle. Helium at the start of the decentralized physical infrastructure network. And if you just go to CoinMarketCap and you saw from all-time lows, you can see that every token in that top 100, of course, has done 100x plus, of course, apart from the stable coins and the ones that are pegged to gold, in order to get there. And so you may think that they're the big blue chips and they're not the 100x tokens. They once were in a position, just like SPX, where they were only $1 to $2 billion before they went on to be crazy cults, like something like XRP, which is now $150 billion. And so the 17 factors inside Murad's video have looked at all the past 100x's and figured out what the commonalities and the common threads are so that Murad can decide what the next 100x is that he wants to put his money into, which of course became the SPX 6900. Factor number 12, however, is a really strong one and one of my biggest takeaways. It was my second takeaway from Murad's presentation, which is supply constriction. Murad says that supply constriction is bullish. It's simple as that. It causes fewer tokens to be in circulation in practice. So there's going to be less tokens in circulation because either people don't want to sell their tokens, diamond-handedness, or tokens are locked, which is, we'll get to in just a second, which is another way to do it, which we'll talk about in just a second. But if they are not available to be bought, there's less tokens for people to buy, and therefore the price will be way more reflexive on when people actually want to buy these tokens, and when it has that demand, it's going to pump way higher just because there's less assets to go around. It also will eliminate sell pressure after pumps because there's not that many tokens to be sold, and it ultimately requires less buy pressure for the coin to go up. So if you have twice the amount of tokens out there on the market because no one's diamond handing them or they're not locked, you're going to need twice the buy pressure to pump that token. And of course, Murad breaks down the two ways to do it, which is a decentralized cult of diamond hands with ambitious targets, and the dishonest way, which is what a lot of utility projects do. Even the recent one, Asta, which had like an 85 or 90% of the tokens locked upon launch, is a centralized team that controls 80% plus of supply. Now, Murad says to find memes that will outperform, looks for memes that stood the test of time. This here is the criteria to do this in the honest way, how to get supply constriction in any meme coin. It takes 6+ months to establish a strong community. You also want multiple 70% drops in the price to wash out weak hands, because when you have people who have weak hands or small price targets, if the token goes 200% up, are they going to sell? Therefore, you're going to have a lot of sell pressure. You want to wash them out as quickly as possible so you have more diamond hands holding a token, so when the token goes up, it doesn't come straight back down, or when the token goes down, it doesn't keep going down because people are losing hope in it. He also says you want weeks of sideways accumulation at under $10 million market cap, so you have that real core of diehard believers who have all the tokens early on and will not sell even if they're up 10, 20, 30, 40x. Which leads us to this, which I've shown a couple of times on the channel before, which is the reflexivity, which is people talking positively about a token like SPX. And therefore people go and buy, and you have a massive green candle. And then you're on CoinMarketCap and you see a massive gainer, and you're like, wait, what is that token? That is the PR, the positive PR. And therefore you're like, oh, maybe I want part of that token. Everyone then goes to buy in and makes the green candle even bigger. A good example of this recently is in the last 7 days, Zcash, which is the privacy meta, has been absolutely tearing. It's up 464% in the last 90 days. And I never really thought of buying Zcash. If we zoom in a little bit and put this graph into a better perspective, I never thought about buying Zcash down here when I was at $60. And only recently, after this 389% pump in 1 month, I'm like, ooh, is this something I should be looking into? And therefore, people go and tell their friends that they made a lot of money in Zcash, and everyone's going to start buying in. It's going to make it go up more and more, which is why when you see the SPX 6900 ranking as #1 in diamond handedness, this is on holder scan, with 63.9% of holders not selling their tokens in the last 90 days, and even gold supply, which is the percentage of people holding for 60 to 90 days, it's still the #1 most diamond handed and gold handed token out there. And I won't go too deep into this, but you can see the DeFi report did a big report on the top meme coins, and you can see in so many of these categories, most of these categories that you want to see, the SPX 6900 literally ranks #1. And Murad went through these, and it was sort of as he stacked all these rankings on top of each other, and we can go through this in another video. This video is going to get too long if I go through specifically. You can see that it literally is outperforming every single other meme coin on almost every single statistic. You want diamond-handed holders who will not sell when the token goes down and will not sell when the token goes up. Takes me to my third takeaway, which is that the token is difficult to value. This is factor number 5 from Murad's presentation. And he believes it's a really simple one. If you have profit and earnings and assets and revenue and liabilities, people are going to value your tokens based on those numbers. This is the traditional way to value things. But historically, tokens that have done extremely well, Bitcoin, ETH, Doge, XRP, and even GME, which is a stock, had nothing to be valued against. Bitcoin was, they didn't know if they were going to value it against the gold supply or the entire asset class of the world. What is it, $900 trillion of assets? Or was it just going to be a substitute for cash? You had nothing to value it against. Ethereum was going to be the world's biggest global computer, or was it going to replace silver? They didn't know, and they had massive price targets because it was hard to see, oh, how much money did Ethereum earn that year? That did not go into the valuation of Ethereum. Dogecoin, again, has 0 revenue and was valued at $90 billion. XRP, was it going to replace all banks? You had nothing to really value XRP at. And GameStop, of course, the only thing you would value that at is how broke could you make Wall Street go just out of spite for trying to kill one of our nostalgic childhood memories. And in fact, I've experienced this in crypto myself, where Rollbit, which I believe is the second biggest online casino in the world with incredible profits, have their own token that sits at 121 mil market cap. Not only that, but they do buybacks, I think daily buyback and burns, and they burn off the supply. And for so long, I'm like, wow, this must be a super undervalued token, just because I think they're burning millions of dollars every, like 1 to 2% of their supply every single month. And I'm like, wow, this is something that's going to have to explode at one point in time. People don't care. This is a traditional way to value something, and they think that it's fairly valued at just about $100 million. And for so long, I'm like, this is going to take off just because no one is doing what they're doing. No, you want something that has no ceiling, nothing tying it down, no valuations. And the SPX 6900, which leads us into the fourth takeaway, has nothing to be valued against except the entire stock market at $62 trillion. Of course, you do have something like Dogecoin, which hit $100 billion at one point. You could potentially value it against that. But Murad thinks it's actually in a niche of its own because it's not just a meme coin. He says it's the world's first movement coin, a mission coin. How many tokens, cryptos, have a mission behind them? SPX 6900 is to flip the stock market and give the younger generations a chance of actually making money. I think one of the last times we saw this, of course, was with Bitcoin and the cypherpunk movement trying to replace the really crappy, oppressive system of fiat currencies. But since then, none of the tokens that have popped up really have a mission or a movement behind them. Maybe something like Zcash, which is privacy, could be sort of a mission behind it. But we have witnessed over the last few years missions, and we have witnessed tokens, but we've never witnessed them together. This is Reddit versus Wall Street, which was the GME saga of trying to get GameStop's stocks to soar so that all the Wall Street fat cats who were trying to squash our nostalgia as kids by putting shorts on the company, trying to make it go bankrupt. But GME does not have a tokenized movement. Of course, it is a stock and it did do really well, but it got shut down by Robinhood and other intermediaries that are running Web 2.0 because it is not a crypto token. It could not be bought freely. And then you have something like Occupy Wall Street from 2011, which was absolutely a movement. Once again, stick it to the big guys for owning all the money. All the boomers have made all the money in the real estate, the housing, and the stock market, and we really have no money left. They've overspent and left us with very little. Therefore, we will march on Wall Street. Was the best that they had at that point in time. They didn't have a movement mission token to be able to invest in and actually absorb a lot of the money out of the S&P 500 or out of Wall Street into something that we control, something like what happened with Bitcoin. Dogecoin is somewhat of a movement mission, but it is not explicitly stated. It's almost like satirically, what is the value of Dogecoin? Why the hell is it at $30 billion? It is a coin with a dog on it that does nothing. That sort of was the first middle finger to the traditional financial sector, but it didn't really start that way and people weren't actually united behind that. I think a lot of people actually just wanted to make money. But the SPX 6900, Murad says, is finally the first true mission movement token. Now, lastly, this is probably my favorite takeaway from his entire video. He says, study tokens that have been outperforming this cycle so far. He says, also known as strong momentum, you want to be buying strength, which is counter to how I originally thought a couple of years ago. I thought tokens that had already run and done extremely well, that I'd miss them. And I was looking for smaller market caps to see which ones would be the next tokens that would become strong. Murad thinks you, however, want to be providing additional strength into what is already strong. If it's proven to be strong, it will continue to be strong in the future, is Murad's thesis. And you identify this by, have they already been performing well in the years prior to the fourth year of the cycle? Guys, we are in the fourth year of the cycle, the most exciting year to be in, because you want to focus on assets which has been outperforming Bitcoin. That is the hurdle rate. Has it been outperforming Bitcoin? Has it been performing in crypto? Because if it hasn't, you might as well just invest in Bitcoin over the past 1 to 2 years. And according to Murad, and my quick research just to double check his numbers and stats, there's literally only 12 assets that have outperformed Bitcoin in 2025. These are the assets down here on the side. This is the performance year to date in 2025. Now, of course, you're going to have tiny meme coins, which have been launched onto the scene, or coins that have been launched in the last month or two that will be outperforming Bitcoin. But yes, they've outperformed Bitcoin year to date, but they have that new aspect and they haven't had the chance for their tokens to be in the hands of diamond-handed holders. But not only has SPX 6900 outperformed Bitcoin this year, Murad points out it is the only token to, and actually really quickly on this one too, apparently there's only 24 tokens that outperformed Bitcoin in 2023. And apparently in 2024, there was only 24 tokens that outperformed Bitcoin. And as Murad's pointing out, this is getting less and less because in 2025, now there's only 12 tokens that have outperformed Bitcoin. Of course, you need to be outperforming Bitcoin if you are a successful token. But Murad points out that the SPX 6900 is literally the only token in the entirety of the crypto universe that has outperformed Bitcoin in 2023, 2024, and 2025. He challenges anyone to go and look for a token that has outperformed Bitcoin over these 3 years, of which I did try and go and do a little research. XRP came close to it, but did not. And Hyperliquid has done over the last 2 years, but it's only been around for 2 years. BNB is 2 years. And there's one down here, Tron, funny enough, was 2% away in 2023. But literally the only token to outperform Bitcoin, and not by a little bit, by an absolute massive margin in the last 2 years, has been SPX 6900. And Murad thinks that you need to study all past cycles. If you're around in the past cycles, you'll understand that the coins that outperformed in 2024 or the third year of the cycle are always historically the same coins that go on ultra parabolic runs during the fourth year of the cycle. In this case, 2025, potentially early 2026. Now, I will say the counter argument to this is that we are not in alt season yet. And of course, things haven't outperformed Bitcoin because it was Bitcoin's turn to run first. And Bitcoin, I think, hit 150% in 2023, 126% in 2024, and is now up about 25 to 30%. People believe Bitcoin still has quite a bit to run before the liquidity will flow into these alt seasons, and you'll have a lot of tokens outperforming Bitcoin. I believe Murad's response to that, or at least my personal response to that is very possible, but the tokens with the highest reflexivity, such as SPX 6900, will continue to outperform even those altcoins because they have been proven to be extremely strong even when it hasn't been alt season, even though it is an altcoin itself. And lastly, Murad left us with this beautiful Excel sheet that he put together of the 14 tokens that outperform Bitcoin against all 17 of his criteria on how a 100x token is found and made. And he believes that SPX 6900 is the only one that fulfills that criteria and is still valued at just a $1.2 billion market cap.